Hi folks, it's me, X-Funk Carter, and I want to talk to you about something which is very, very important. Oh man.
The Combine's on the move.
Yeah.
Yes, and they carry advise I'm still in incubation pods.
Oh boy. I want to talk
Therefore,
about
I repeat, evacuate City 17 at once,
Subject.
if not sooner. I cannot state this without enough undue emphasis. On a lighter note, if you are already in one of our designated safe zones, I feel obliged to point out that a more fortunate side effect of the reactor's destruction is the complete removal of the Combine's radioactive suppression field. Previously, certain protein chains important to the
I want to
process
talk
of
tonight
embryonic
about
development were
Apocalypse.
selectively prevented from forming. This is no
And
longer the case.
Apocalypse
So
is a
in
subject
time, now
which you
would be an
can't
excellent time for
really
procreation,
split
which is to say, in
it,
layman's
the
terms,
pragmatic
you should give
aspect of
serious
it
consideration
away
to
from
doing your part for the revival of the species.
the
We must make the most of the time we have, as it is
psychological
by no means
part of
certain
it.
how much time we have secured ourselves before the
And what better place to talk about Apocalypse than in Half-Life 2? The world is being taken over by the Combine, which is a combination of these, I guess, complicit humans and brother. And these aliens who've come from the dimension Xen, X-E-N. So, this is the way Half-Life 2... Oh, brother. These are spoilers here. Yeah. Yeah. Apocalypse. Strange stories to talk to you about Apocalypse. Yeah.
We're so worried.
Oh god, you know, one thing about the Half-Life 2 thing after, from the beginning of this character, it became very psychophantic. So these characters are so sycophantic to you, they're just so...
Dog's happy to see you, I can tell. Okay, dog.
They never criticize you, they never, you know, whatever, they're just like fucking white bread, you know. It's just like... Anyway, they treat you like, you know, it's a kind of storytelling which you would do if you were a hospital, like if you were in the hospitality industry, right? But a real storyteller is gonna fucking challenge people. He's not gonna let them be lazy like that. He's gonna...
Alex, come in.
God, here, let's bring this, let's change this a little bit. It's a little too much volume on the game there. Anyway, I'm freaked out about Fukushima. In fact, I had a panic attack earlier. I was capturing video during that panic attack.
Alex, where are you?
One of the things I do is disaster. I did disaster response simulations. Because really, it's very close to it's very close to war game design at the tactical, operational level. At that level, by the way, when you get up to the strategic level, the national level, it becomes totally different. But if you're talking about having an agency or a hospital or fire department or whatever deal with their disaster planning, then you know that's where people train at. That's the level they train at. There's a principle in serious game design, simulation design. You never present an apocalyptic scenario because people just throw up their hands, right? The thing is, there's a lot of crazy fears now about this Fukushima thing, but oh god, here, let me just pause this. That's the thing about these Valve cutscenes, they you can't skip them. Well, I guess you can, Left 4 Dead and so on. I don't know, I guess they went to more traditional cutscenes later on, but in these ones you can't, you just well, it was creative risk. Doesn't work, but whatever. I'm waiting for this cutscene to finish. Anyway, matrix that I usually use for risk calculation. The kind of simulation design I've been doing for years. I've done it since I was a teenager, really, when I was modding the rules to Traveller. Traveller being a hard science fiction role-playing game. By hard science fiction, I mean, you know, if you shoot somebody with a 5.56 millimeter bullet in Traveller, they're probably going to get killed. You know, like that, like realistic rules, that kind of thing. Things for combat medicine and stuff like that. It's just the only difference was, you know, you use these far-out computers and you had anti-gravity vehicles and you could move on ships that went, you know, they jumped through across, you know, light years of space. But basically all that was a disguise of modern military. Replace grav tanks, floating tanks with Huey Slicks or Huey Hogs. Replace, you know, starships with naval ships, and you've got Vietnam. You've got, you know, World War II. You've got all this stuff. Anyway, God. So here's the thing with me. I do wargame design, and wargame design isn't. It's a common myth that it's like a science. It isn't. We've never, at least not in the dimension that I work at, which is kind of higher level. Like when you're talking about disasters, when you're talking about combat, we've never been able to scientifically study either of those subjects because a scientific study requires you to have a control group, and we've never been able to do that. You can't set up, well, we're going to take two cities, and one city we're going to give a disaster, and the other one we're not going to give a disaster. You know, all you can do is gather as much anecdotal evidence as you can, and then and learn from these. And that's as much of an art form, really, as a science, probably more so. And indeed, you know, the concept of the warrior poet, right? Soldiers are artists. War is an art. You know, if you look at the way doctors behave in a movie about medicine, you know, they'll think, they'll consult, they'll do tests, blah blah blah. Soldiers can't do that. Watch any war movie, even the most stupid, unrealistic one. You know that they have to make their minds up. They have to be creative. They must be creative. Anyway, so when you're doing simulations at kind of like a tactical level involving groups of people and so on, you do a lot of research for war games and so on. I've got a war game on my blog, xfunk.com. I wrote a manual, got me hired at Breakaway as a serious game designer. Anyway, I do a risk assessment. It's a scale of 1 to 5 on two scales. On the 1 to 5, well, how likely is it that the bad thing is going to happen on a 1 to 5? And if it does happen, how destructive will it be on a scale from 1 to 5? After you've done that, you multiply those levels together, and that's basically your worry about it factor, what I call it X-Funk Carter worry about it factor. And you know, something like, okay, am I going to get killed by a serial killer, right? If it happens to you, the destructive level is a 5, right? It's just horrible. But what's the likelihood it's going to happen to you? Maybe a 0.5 or 0.1. So you multiply those together, right? So let's say a 0.5. So that times 5 is 2.5. So 2.5 on a 25 scale, that you should worry about that, right? What's a 5 by 5? You know, 5 by 5 is like, well, there's a psycho guy and he's wired up a building full of people with explosives, and everybody knows those explosives are for real, and the people can't leave because if they open the door it'll trigger whatever, and he's there and he's unstable, so likelihood it's going to happen 5, very high. Likelihood damage it'll do if that happens 5, right? Okay, so that's a 25, so that's the top of the scale. Well, now you do the math for Fukushima on that thinking. What's the likelihood it's going to be really a disaster? Well, let's say at 1, very low. What happens if it is a disaster?
Let's do it.
It's beyond 5. It's infinity. If Fukushima burns,
Whoa.
it'll be the destruction of all life on this planet.
Good throw, dog. Now
So
go, boy, go on. You'll be
it's like a feedback loop, you know?
What now? Whoa.
So that's where my thinking went
Hold on.
when I had a panic attack. Yeah. Yeah, I had a panic attack. This is a roller coaster ride. You know, nothing bad's gonna happen to you. You're strapped in. It's a roller coaster.
All right, let's get off before the next
Anyway.
ride starts.
All right, so there are some crazy people talking about Fukushima, and they talk about what are we doing? All right. They talk about scenarios and they have links that are self-referential. But on the other hand, the parties who are getting, you know, I don't want to sound racist, but the Japanese culture is very deferential to power. And if you have studied war games and so forth, you'll see that cultures that are highly deferential to power get themselves into fucking disasters because the little people don't question the authorities. Oh, fuck. What am I supposed to do here? You know, I'll give you a couple of examples. During the Battle of Britain, well, British, what am I beating up on Germans here? This is a very famous example, I will say. During the Battle of Midway, the Japanese did a tabletop exercise of their planned invasion of Midway, and they lost like 2 aircraft carriers by the roll of the dice. And or maybe it was 3, I don't know, but the umpire intervened and made it like 1 aircraft carrier. When the actual scenario happened, they lost all of their aircraft carriers, and it basically lost the war for them. What the fuck am I doing? There's like, there's a puzzle here. Brother. I get it.
God, this place is really coming.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, anyway.